And we're back. Our next guest famously said to me once, it's not about gay marriage, it's about gay divorce. We're going to be speaking with Fred Hertz, author of Making It Legal. Fred, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Do you think that's still true? It's not about gay marriage, it's about gay divorce?
Well, from a political standpoint, it's about gay marriage, and that's where the focus is. The reason I say it's about gay divorce is actually most of the legal consequences of marriage really only hit you in the event of a divorce. So it's through looking at what happens if you divorce that you actually understand what does it mean to marry.
Now, do you think that, myself included, newly married according to the state of California, we same-sex couples who are now in every way legal and equal to our heterosexual compatriots,
in California.
In California and in Maine and in New Hampshire and
Yes.
wherever. Do we understand what we've done?
Probably not. In fact, one of the things that we put in the back of the book is the marriage license test. And it's 25 simple questions about what does it mean to be married. Chances are you get a few of them right, but not all of them.
So what are some of the ones that some of your clients don't get right?
Well, here are the two things that I try to look at. One is your relationship to the larger society. And most people don't understand what does it really mean to lack federal recognition. They all talk about the 1,000 rights, but what really counts is what does it matter for you. And for most people, it's things like Social Security, tax benefits, estate tax benefits, to really understand what does it mean to not be federally recognized. And then the other piece that my clients just don't quite get is what does it mean to be a single economic unit? What does it really mean to be liable for each other's debts? What does it really mean to be sharing your assets as community property in California? And what does it mean to be on the hook for paying support, i.e. alimony, if things don't work out? Those are the sort of practical legal sides of marriage that have kind of been swept aside, or at least off to the side, in all the discussion about the civil rights aspect of marriage.
So it's not all about love?
It's not all about love. Romance is about love. Marriage is about money and property.
Mm-hmm. Now, this book, Making It Legal, a guide to same-sex marriage, domestic unions, and civil unions, we now have this kind of buffet of different same-sex partnering options around the country. How many are there, and how do they impact each other? Like I had a guest on earlier who's from New Hampshire.
Yes.
But so they're married in New Hampshire, but not here.
Right. So what I try to explain to people, and we did do a simplified chart, what we try to do at NOLO is boil things down in ways that non-lawyers can understand them. There basically are four systems. There's marriage equivalent, there's marriage light, and then there's contract. So marriage is the states like New Hampshire. Marriage equivalent are the states like California, where it's not called marriage, but it's equivalent to marriage. Marriage light is places like Colorado, like Wisconsin, like Maryland, where you have some of the rights and benefits and not all of them. And then there are about 30 states that are contract only, which means there's no government recognition. So if you want to have a marriage equivalent, you have to do it by signing a cohabitation agreement, doing powers of attorney. And even then, you won't get the government benefits, you'll just get the private benefits.
Now, the opposition to
Yes.
same-sex marriage in California seems to be, if you watch Fox News or the more liberal equivalents, it's all about politics and it's all about love and relationships. Right. But there's a real weighty legal issue here. I mean, why do you think there's so much opposition to same-sex marriage? Is it all about religion?
No, it's mostly about gender. It's mostly about gender roles. I am totally convinced, and no one wants to talk about this, that what really is happening is seeing long-term happy families where roles are not assigned by gender, where men can raise children, where women can be supportive. I think that the real transgressive nature of same-sex relationships is something we should be proud of. In fact, I want to say we are going to destroy traditional marriage, and we should be proud of it, because what we're actually doing is showing that you can have happy, long-term, successful families with kids without assigning roles by gender. And I think that is what really drives the anti-marriage people crazy. They don't say it, they don't talk about it, but I actually think that's what's underlying
Now,
it.
when did all this start? I mean, everyone likes to say that the quote-unquote modern gay movement started with Stonewall. We know that's not true. And it seems lately that everyone thinks that the same-sex marriage debate started in February of 2004 when Gavin Newsom started marrying people.
When I was in high school in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1969, before Stonewall, when the student body president from the University of Minnesota applied to marry his boyfriend, who was a librarian, went all the way to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and he was laughed at by the gay community as much as the straight community, because the notion of wanting to be married was aping heteronormative social structures that people didn't want to marry into. We wanted to be outside of marriage, not in it. So it really started 40 years ago in Minnesota. It then kind of was dormant and then revived in about 1994, about 15 years later, both in New York and in Hawaii, not led by gay activists and not led by gay leaders who were mostly very uninterested in marriage.
Well, I mean, there have been people within the LGBT community that say that this wasn't a battle we were looking to fight. This was a battle foisted on us by maybe well-meaning heterosexual politicians, but nonetheless, do you think that's true?
Well, the latest round, yes. The latest round, obviously Gavin Newsom set the ball rolling in San Francisco, but the basic marriage movement was actually started by a group of conservative gay men and lesbians who did not want to be on the margins. I mean, I met one of these couples in New York, and at one point I asked them, I said, well, how long have you guys been living together? They turned to me and said, oh, we wouldn't think of living together until after we got married. I mean, they were such a traditional couple, and they did not want to be on the margins. They did not want to be on the left wing. They wanted exactly the same mainstream life that their straight parents had. And they really were the leaders of the movement because they're the ones who said, we don't want alternative life, we don't want to be on the edge, we want to be mainstream.
All right, so let's leave aside what one feels about it, because you'll find a million.
Yeah.
It's like a box of chocolates. Pick one. How far is this going to go? I mean, are we going to have same-sex marriage that is equal to heterosexual marriage in this country, and when? And
I'd
is that a good thing?
Yes, yes, and in about 5 years. And the reason I think it's going to happen is that I don't think our business society, let alone our legal society, can handle 50 varieties of marriage. Chase Bank does not want to deal with whether you're liable for your partner's credit card debt different when you're in Nevada, California, or Arizona.
All right, so how real is that corporate pressure on the political class, meaning the Republican senators who maybe come from a Bible Belt district and they don't want to vote for it, but they got Chase going, fix this?
Right. I think it's going to happen over time. It's going to happen inexactly. It's going to happen with different departments doing different things. And frankly, I think the Ted Olson lawsuit, which many of my friends have been very upset about.
Do you think he's a Trojan horse?
No, I think he's totally genuine. And I think having a mainstream Republican saying that the government has no business telling people who they should can marry, I think is a great victory.
Right. But is it going to be undone by Ted Olson or Chase, or is it going to be undone by the Supremes?
I don't think it's ever going to hit the Supreme Court. I think
there are a lot of cases moving that way, though, aren't there?
Yes, but I think by the time the Ted Olson case gets reviewed, by the time the initiative gets back on the California ballot in 2010 or 2012, I think that the political consensus is going to shift. Keep in mind, Iowa and New Hampshire are not these edgy, radical states.
No, I wouldn't call either than that.
And when you have Iowa and New Hampshire legalizing same-sex marriage, and it's not a problem, I just think it's a matter of time.